Hi, welcome back to Pages into the Past. Today we're going to participate in the Costube Entertainment Network's 21 questions for 2021. Getting to know me. Question number 1. What is your favorite genre of costuming? Mine is historical. I love the late Bustle period and Edwardian period. As a plus-size girl, I don't feel like I overwhelm those outfits. I love the big bustles, the big sleeves, the jackets, the nipping in at the waist, the big hats, big hair. Just my favorite thing. Question number 2. What originally got you into costuming? I have to say it's my mom. She took me to my first Renaissance fair when my son was 3. We walked around the fair, and most of the day I was just in awe at all of the beautiful costumes, and I thought, oh my gosh, how did these people find these things? And so when we got home, my mom said, you know how to sew. I want you to make me a costume so I can go on my cruise as a tavern wench. I was like, sure, I can do that. We'll go down the store and pick up a pattern. Well, 32 years ago, they didn't have patterns at the store for Renaissance period outfits like they do now. So we picked up a peasant top blouse pattern, a knit jumpsuit pattern. We picked up fabric for an underskirt, some cartridge pleating tape for curtains, and a grommet set. Needless to say, it was a big learning curve, and here's a picture of my mom. Number 3, who taught you your craft? I learned in high school. I even made my own graduation dress. After that, I learned how to alter patterns because I could never find any of my size. I learned how to draft patterns. I even learned how to draft up from pattern books or gridded patterns. I learned how to alter them to my waist size, my chest size, because many of them were far too small. The very first pattern I ever bought for the Renaissance period, I was super excited because, you know, it was my size, or at least I thought so. And I made it and cut it out and I put it on and it was way too small. So from then I had to learn how to upsize certain patterns. The best thing that I ever found was the Elizabethan costuming book by Janet Winter and Carolyn Savoy. That one started me on my Renaissance costuming journey. Number 4, which of your projects are you the most proud of? My brown and gold 1874 promenade outfit. This one I took from a Pattern of Fashion 2, a gridded pattern in a book, and I will show examples here. I had come across before the Automobile's website, and I saw her dress. I knew I had seen that somewhere, and I found it in my book because I just happened to have a copy of that Pattern of Fashion 2. And I said, well, I can make that. That was the beginning of my journey. What project taught you the most? I would have to say, same thing. My promenade dress from 1874. From that one I learned how to scale up, not only just from the book, but also for proportion for my size. I didn't just take the pattern the way it was and say, okay, here's the skirt, and I'm going to take the overlays and just plop them on there. I actually enlarged all of those as well, so it was more proportionate. So for every inch that I increased the length of the dress, I also had to take in those measurements and increase some of those little finer points. Number 6, drape, draft, or commercial pattern. I am a fan of all three. If I can find it commercially and I don't have to recreate the wheel, I'm going to do it commercially. But sometimes I just find a picture and say, oh, I want to make that. And then I start draping and drafting from that side. Sometimes you already have things that are partially drafted that you can use from costume to costume to costume, and sometimes you have to drape straight from the get-go. Number 7, are you team cut or team trace? I'm both. It depends on what it is. If it's a multi-size pattern and I'm not using the largest size, then what I will do is I will trace out the parts that I need to. Commercial patterns, usually I just cut those out because I usually buy a couple of them at a time so that I do have a backup. Number 8, Pins or pattern weights? I do both. If it's a really slippery fabric, I will pin into it when I use my rotary cutter or scissors so that the pattern doesn't slide. If it's a heavier fabric and I want to use my rotary cutter, then I'll use pattern weights because I don't want to have to bind anything up with the pins and accidentally run into it with my cutter. Number 9, biggest sewing pet peeve. My biggest sewing pet peeve is not making up a mock-up and then blaming the pattern for it not fitting you. You have to take the time to mock up a pattern you've never used before, because if it doesn't fit you, you have nobody to blame but yourself and a waste of time and material. Now sometimes it's okay. Skirts are skirts. You really don't have to do a lot of mock-ups. But if you're going to do a blouse that's fitted, if you're going to do a bodice, a jacket, I'm a big fan of making mock-ups. And one of my friends always says, oh, it's just a waste of fabric and money. And she used to throw a lot of things into the corner and not finish them. And she asked me for help one day, and I said, I'll help you on one condition. You have to make a mock-up. And it was the best outfit she ever made. I think it was one of the most proud outfits that she ever wore. You could tell her confidence was sky high because it fit her well, and it was just beautifully done. Number 10, what is your favorite tool? This is my favorite tool. It's a Simflex expanding sewing gauge. And this, it can be used for buttons. You can expand it to set your grommets, measure your pleats. It's just probably my favorite tool that I ever got. The best sewing tool you ever invested in. Mine is my pneumatic grommet setter. One of my favorite tools. And so I just love this machine. This machine is one of the best purchases I think my husband ever got me. He asked me one year what I wanted, and I said, oh, I want a grommet press. I don't want the hand press because when I use the hand press, all my grommets, they don't sit right. They go wonky. So he ordered this for me. And this is just one of those tools you can't live without. And I absolutely I use this with my corsets and anything that needs a grommet. I have a stash of them that I can use, different sizes. I can swap out to bigger ones. But this is one of my favorite things. They're solid. They're more professional looking, you know, just one of those things that we had the income and I said, this is what I want, and he said, okay. We called the manufacturer, they said sure, and they shipped it out to us, and yeah, it's just lovely on the when it sets. 12. The most useless sewing item I ever purchased. I would have to say that it is my bias tape maker. It's a heated unit. You have to cut out all your bias tape and wind it up on this thing. Get it hot, feed it through. I can do all that by hand much faster than by the time I get that done. And I just feel like what a waste of time and money, because I can't control it like I do with my iron and my pull-through bias tape maker. So, yeah. Number 13, do you pick a project, then procure the materials, or collect materials and let them speak to you? I do both. Sometimes that fabric just tells you what it wants to be made of. And sometimes that fabric is too good just to let go. I live in a very small community, and so anytime that I go somewhere that has like a fashion district or fabrics, I'm going to buy whatever speaks to me as in color or texture. I'll figure out what I'm going to make with it later. Sometimes there's a plan, but not always. Number 14, what are your goals moving forward? Page 307 in Costume in Detail, the 1908 Garden Party Dress. This bodice has a center front opening with an overlay fastened on the left side and the sleeves. That will be the most tricky part, but I found a pattern that I'm working on to see if it will work. Number 15, scissors or rotary. I call both. I like the rotary for quick projects, simple straight cuts, but scissors for more intricate seams. Number 16, do you have a sewing assistant? Oh, I have my shadow. She's by my side all the time. I can't go anywhere without her, without tripping on her. We've had her since she was 6 months old, and I have dog hair on me all the time. Little white dog hairs. All the time. Number 17. Do you have any bad sewing habits? Well, don't we all? I don't change my needle often enough. I don't press my seams immediately after sewing them. I wait till I have a few done and then I go press them. And I like to put pins in my mouth sometimes. It's just easier when I'm pinning things if it's right there. Number 18, do you sew over your pins or take them out? I'm a bad girl. I sew over them. 95% of the time, I sew over them. Number 19, machine sewing. Barefoot, socks, or shoes on the pedal. I'm shoes on. My workshop is not in my house. It's probably about 40 yards from my main house, the main residence. So I have to walk in gravel back and forth to get to it. And I don't have a restroom in here. So sometimes it's just a pain to put your shoes on. So I sew with my shoes on. Number 20, do you put pins in parallel to the seam or perpendicular? Well, I do both. It depends on the seam. For hems, I do parallel, and for main construction, I do perpendicular. It's just easier for me that way. Number 21, what do you like to watch or listen to while sewing? Usually, it's just the TV or a movie that I've seen 100 times, because for me, it's just background noise. So, what about you? Thank you for watching. Have a great day.